Arsenal have the penultimate game of the season away against Manchester United, which is a big game that they need to win. Manchester United are on awful form and their tactics are quite frankly awful. So let's see how Arsenal can counter that and take advantage of the poor Man United side. Let's get into it. Now, the Manchester United game is not going to be easy by any stretch of means. We know what they can do, especially at Old Trafford, and can turn up at any given day. Even against Liverpool, they were awful and they ended up getting a draw through 2 freak mistakes and brilliant finishes. And that's definitely something they have the potential to do because they have good players within their side. Now, I think it's good to look at some things between their game against Crystal Palace where they got humiliated, and also look at some of the key factors why they've been struggling this season to really gauge where Arsenal should be going right and where Arsenal really should exploit. First of all, we do have to talk about the injuries. However, Manchester United have had a lot of injuries within their team, and this week before the Palace game they only had Johnny Evans as their only fit centre-back, playing him next to Casemiro. Now, with Lisandro Martinez reportedly being back and Rashford in training, they could be expected to even start or maybe play at least a few minutes in the game. This means that you won't necessarily see that, and Casemiro will be playing in midfield, which I don't think actually helps them in any way. Now, first of all, Manchester United have really been struggling with their pressing systems. They have some of their wingers invert to cover centre-backs that usually go deeper, which Arsenal like to do as well, with Gabriel sometimes picking the ball up from goal kick. But with them usually using someone like a deep line playmaker such as Eriksen or someone like Casemiro who hasn't got the legs, they don't really have significant pressure to actually press these teams in and win the ball up high, because these teams, especially good teams, will eventually get the ball out and have players that will come deeper in order to pick up the ball. You can imagine for Arsenal, Partey or Odegaard or even Rice coming a little bit deeper in order to help them get out. And because of the running legs of people like Rice and Partey and Odegaard, they're really going to struggle catching up because Casemiro can't simply do that sort of movement in a game. And while a lot of the goals recently you can put down to Casemiro not being able to defend and run, and when he played in centre-back against Crystal Palace, you really saw him sort of play as a midfielder still and just leave his defence, which I don't think is going to be something that happens too much, but obviously it could do. The biggest issue that Manchester United have this season is the gap between their defenders and their midfield is just too big. The gaps between the lines are way too big across the pitch and it's easy to play through them. For this instance against Crystal Palace, they get a foot in and almost win the ball back, but straight away Crystal Palace are there for the second ball and can play it through to one of their strikers. Their 2 centre midfielders are not compact enough and they're too far away from the 2 defenders, which in this situation is their right back and their right centre back, because their left back and left centre back have gone missing or pushed up yet again. You always have one fullback that pushes up, which creates even more space in behind, and when players like Mateta can run at your defenders and get past them and score, then you know it's a big concern. And now some teams don't mind having these big gaps because they usually allow players to be able to run around if they're very mobile and get the ball, but obviously Manchester United don't have the mobility in midfield or defence right now. You can say that's down to injuries, but even without injuries the mobility is not there, considering Casemiro will probably still start. Mainoo, who's also showed a lot of promise in midfield, almost gets caught out of possession all the time. He doesn't necessarily move too much off the ball, and sometimes it causes Man United to get stuck in situations where they can't build up with the press. For instance, against Burnley, the game before the last one, they really struggled at actually playing through Burnley's midfield rather than going long. A lot of the time they had to go long to their wingers and Burnley would get 2 or 3 men on them, which they struggled on. When they tried to play it into mainoo, he honestly had 2 or 3 players around him, and this allows teams to basically suck them in midfield and win the ball back and counter them on transition, which is something that Arsenal have been getting better at recently after not being brilliant at this season. And we can definitely use our quick players to get on the break in a 2v2 or 3v2 situation. Now, because of how the midfield works for Man United out of the ball, they don't really like teams playing through them in the middle. They prefer teams to go long at them so they can try and win headers or try and knock it down. But without the inclusion of people like Harry Maguire, who is expected to be injured for this game, they don't really want to do that either. They're not that physical team, and our team comparatively should dominate them in all phases, especially in the air and in duels. This could cause some real big issues for them, as not only can Arsenal go long for deeper balls, they could also play it through the middle exactly what they want to, and with the positioning and movement of Martin Odegaard, they're going to need someone to track him and keep up with him the whole time, which, considering the inexperience that mainoo has and that Bruno might be injured and Eriksen isn't the best defender and tracking player, might be a bit of an issue for them defensively. And another way that Arsenal's physicality could cause them problems is, obviously we all know Arsenal have scored the most corner goals, the most set pieces goals in the Premier League this season, and Manchester United actually really struggle at defending them, especially with the fact that you think their main tall players, their physical players, are not going to be there, and maybe Lisandro Martinez skills will be there, but his height will be an issue in this circumstance. And considering they already struggle to track runners and be able to do these sort of things, then I think they're probably going to struggle a lot in this game. And I think Arsenal could probably get at them like they did with Tottenham, getting on the goalkeeper, because Onana also doesn't really move from his line, which is a big problem, and he doesn't demand and control his box. And fundamentally, Man United aren't very well coached, so they don't all stick together. And you know, you can put this down to the fact they've had to change the team, a lot of injuries, but even when they play their normal team, they don't stick together and they often leave each other in positions that you don't want to be in. Casemiro doesn't have the legs to run around, but his players don't necessarily help him going around him and just let him leave it by himself, where he loses the ball and will give up chances like he did against Palace. If they continue to play this against Arsenal, who are very well drilled and very well together, with probably the star next side playing a lot together, it's going to cause them so many problems at trying to actually keep the ball the whole time. I think Arsenal will actually have the ball a lot, and I don't think that's necessarily down to Arsenal wanting it, because I think Arsenal could play a sort of system where they did against Tottenham and Chelsea, where they allow Man United to have it. But honestly, I think United will probably give them the ball accidentally some of the times, but also not really want it as well. They're going to be looking for a counter-attacking system and trying to go over the top. And this is the thing, Manchester United definitely do have threats, and obviously not even thinking about the whole Old Trafford crowd and the fact that Arsenal won there once out of 16 times. They do have good players. I don't know who's going to play right now. I have no idea if Bruno's fit, which obviously is a big deal because he is their best player. Overall, they basically play hero ball. So sometimes if they get a long ball to the attack and they go over our defenders, or some of our defenders make a mistake, then they're going to get chances and probably score. They want us to make mistakes in defence. And although our defence has been amazing this season, we've definitely been making some mistakes, which is realistically the only way we've conceded in the last few games. And you never know, Erik ten Hag might come down with a new tactic and actually trump Arteta in this game. And maybe Arteta's planned for it or whatever happens. But I think given how Man United have played this season and the sort of progression and patterns we've seen from them all season, it should be a problem for them to defend within their own box and inside the pitch. Arsenal need to be better at transitions in this game, but I don't think that should be too much of an issue. That's why I expect someone like Martinelli to play, because he's great in them positions. But given the reported teams that Manchester United will be able to play and Arsenal will be able to play, and given the track record this season, and given the fact that one of the managers is incredibly much better than the other, I think Arsenal should have this in the bag. It's the most confident I've been going to Old Trafford, obviously because it is a bad place, but they're on awful form and they barely have a team. And given the tactics as well that they sort of occupy, I think it suits us a lot more. And when they came to the Emirates before, earlier in the season, I thought they were a lot better, but since then we've definitely got a better team, and it seems like they've got a lot worse. So we'll have to see what happens at the end of the day. Let me know what you guys think will happen in this game. Do you think Arsenal will get the win that is probably very much expected right now, or do you think it could be a thrashing? Because it could be if Manchester United lose their head like they did in the week and they give us too much space. But ultimately, it's not as easy as you think, but I think you should still be very confident. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, please go and watch my video yesterday. If not, I'll see you in the next one.